Welcome back to another episode of Reading Between the Headlines. I'm Asaf Nisim. Little Broken Picard is here. Let's do the thing. Headline number 1. Some things never change. Chelsea legend John Terry revels in former club's win over Tottenham as he labels new stadium 3-point lane. Shots fired over the weekend, ladies and gents. You know a Chelsea fan, such as myself, can't produce a football show without reviewing this weekend's London derby, or at least the drama associated with it. And it was a shit show. John Terry, captain, leader, legend, Wayne Bridges' best friend, took some shots at Spurs. Even Mason Mount's dad, Tony Mount, had a go. And look, rightly so. If it was Spurs that won, they'd have gotten the bragging rights, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if they went ham. Bottom line, Frank did a number on Jose this week. Call a spade, and move on. There's definitely a lot of hyperbole out there regarding Jose and his so-called outdated tactics. To me, this is all nonsense. On the day, Chelsea were unquestionably more driven, determined, and seemed to play with a much clearer purpose in mind than Spurs did. It's one match. Spurs have a lot of work to do, and I'm sure the special happy humble one will make it happen. He's never failed to before. I don't think he's ever gone to a club and not won a trophy. All that out of the way, there was an assortment of controversy involved with the game. From the nature of student facing off with mentor in a derby situation to more incidents of scumbags being racist to scuffles breaking out on the pitch, to yet another Heung-min Son sending off. This game predictably delivered on all controversial fronts. The media are having a field day, but I wanted to talk about something a little bit different with you guys. I wanted to talk about referee Anthony Taylor's performance and some of the decisions that he made. Not necessarily the ones he's getting so much flack for. I think the red card had to be a red card, and I also think at the same time Rudiger sold the hell out of that kick out by Son. Disclaimer, I don't like to judge other referees broadly, especially when who the hell am I to criticize such an accomplished referee like Taylor, but I couldn't help but think that Anthony Taylor made some pretty bad decisions that led to a bad day at the office for him, in my opinion. Firstly, little insight into the referee community. Despite what people may think, we absolutely love having games where no red cards or even cautions were issued. Generally, we wear it as a badge of honor, an exhibition of our ability to keep all the players safe while achieving optimal match flow and not having to use a single card. Of course, it's not always the case. When a card needs to be given, a referee should always oblige. In the 18th minute, Eric Dyer made a pretty poor tackle, or block, you could call it, on Mason Mount. The moment it happened, as per usual, I immediately said to myself instinctively, yellow card. It was ugly. You don't block a clearance by putting your studs up and in the way of the follow through. This is how people break ankles, shins, toes, etc. I've seen it before. Now, Taylor had a decision to make. He decided not to issue the caution. I can understand the logic there. It's a derby, and not just any derby, but lots of extra drama given the circumstances. It's likely going to get heated, right? And as a referee, you don't want to overly affect the game. That much is obvious. And you want to give yourself room to caution players when things are really intense without having to send anyone off. So you don't want to give out yellows that aren't completely necessary. Fine. It's a choice, and every referee will make that assessment themselves. When it happened, I immediately texted my buddy saying this was bad refereeing, that not giving Dyer the yellow would come to bite Taylor in the butt later on. It wasn't long before the next incident happened. Of course, within a minute of Dyer's ugly block, Mason Mount went in over the ball on none other than Eric Dyer. You think that was coincidence? I think not. These things start off small and escalate quickly. Everyone's chatting, players are all over each other, jibing, mouthing off. You let one go, then you have to let the next one, a minute later, go as well. As Taylor did with Mount. That's what true consistency is. Now, things may change later on in the game, and you can change your standards as long as they change for everyone. That's all fine and good. And clearly, it happened, because Taylor ends up showing 7 yellow cards and a red card that game. Not the most I've ever seen, certainly not the least I've ever seen, but it was a good amount. Essentially, in my opinion, what happened was Anthony Taylor's resistance to showing an early yellow to Dyer contributed greatly to the tension of the game. And subsequently, Taylor ends up having to dole out the cards later in the match. If you snuff out the silly business early, you may be able to avoid all the cards, not to mention the danger to the players on the pitch. It's easy for me to say on the outside looking in, I know, and sometimes, given the occasion, there's really not much you can do to stymie the bad behavior. Sometimes the players just give you no option. Unfortunately for Taylor, I think he made the wrong decisions here, and we've seen the fallout from it. The match, while really fun to watch for a Chelsea fan, was pretty scrappy and all over the place. You got Mourinho's squad on the touchline losing their minds, compelling the referee to go to VAR when it's already being reviewed by VAR. Dele Alli riding Antonio Rudiger like an English cowboy. Yeehaw, mate. Marcos Alonso getting flatlined by Gazzaniga. Of course, the Son kickout, and all sorts of tempers flaring up. Again, I understand the argument that you might want to keep your cards close in a match like this, but I think Taylor could have done a much better job managing the game early on in this one. Headline number 2. Arteta keeping Lundberg on at Arsenal as Ozil is offered clean slate. So, it's finally happened, ladies and gents. Mikel Arteta is taking the job at Arsenal. These rumors have been going on for a long time now, even since Arsene Wenger left the club, and Arteta actually admitted to having been offered the job at that time as well. But the time is now. Arteta stated in his first press conference as manager that he didn't feel ready when previously offered the position, but after some time in the field of management, coaching, etc., he feels it's the right time in his career, even if not the exact right moment given Man City's needs. I'd imagine that Arsenal supporters will be grasping at this appointment with gleeful optimism. Many of them were sick of Emery, probably still nauseous the last few games, and are now ready to get swifty with a former captain and club icon. Walked away, heard them say, poison hearts will never change. Walk away,
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening.
It probably doesn't hurt that he's so outspoken about what the club means to him either. I know dabbing up the badge, literally and figuratively, is something we football folk get amped about. Here's some of what he had to say.
Mikel, hi. Congratulations on your appointment. Tell us what it means to you to be back at this club, how big a challenge it is for you.
I feel back home. I'm extremely happy and proud to have given the opportunity to be the manager of this football club. I've been preparing for a few years for this challenge to come. I know the expectations, I know the level, and I know the stature of this club and what it deserves. So I'm ready for that challenge. I can't wait to start working with the players and everybody here at the club. But I've got a good vibe. I'm sensing a good energy today since I walk in London called me, so it's giving me even more energy, and I feel so happy. I can't say any other thing.
How did it feel walking back in here? How did it feel walking back in at the training ground at London Colney?
Yeah, it was strange just living 4 or 5 years ago, obviously in a different role, in a different position, but it was always a dream for me. The day I left and I made the decision to leave this football club, I said to the people that I'm going outside, I'm going to learn, I'm going to get prepared, and hopefully one day I can come back here when I feel that I'm ready to make that step. I have so much respect for this football club that if I wouldn't feel that I'm ready and prepared for this, I wouldn't be sitting in this chair.
Besides talk about what Lundberg's role will be in the club, or if he will still have a role at all, spoiler alert, he is staying on, Arteta and Freddie discussed the perennial Özil situation. I know it's a tired topic, but after 6 years in London, you'd imagine Gooners are calling out for him to either put up or get the hell out. Something tells me that not only will Mikel Arteta find a way to make use of Özil's talent, but the system he implements will be more conducive to getting the most out of his football. You imagine that being a La Masia alum, playing under Wenger, and now having mentored under Pep, we're going to see something of a reversion to the beautiful football Arsenal was known for so many years. I was one of those people, even as a Chelsea fan, I always thought to myself how beautiful Arsenal played the game, and it was a joy to watch. That sort of went away for a while, and understandably so. Football under Wenger hadn't really delivered in over a decade. Arsenal just seemed like a team with no killer instinct. A team that would look pretty, but way too open and soft at times. Emery was supposed to implement something that looked more solid, more consistent over the long haul. We don't need to get into the whats and whys there, but ultimately, it didn't end well. So here we are. Arsenal are looking for a return to the culture, and you could say identity, that Arteta is so steeped in. I imagine he's learned a thing or two from Pep, and while it will probably take some time to find consistency, as it does for every new manager, I suspect he'll get what he needs to figure it all out. It does seem a growing trend in this moment in football, doesn't it? Not that it's not happened before. Of course it's happened a lot, but big clubs that are having a tough time finding their bearings right now, the pressure is building up, it affects everyone, the manager, the staff, the players, and when the results don't come in, the entire system is thrown into question. When you lose the confidence of the dressing room has lost its confidence as well. I've said it before, but I think there's a certain degree of cachet that a formerly iconic, successful player will get in a dressing room that maybe somebody else wouldn't. Your Lampard, your Solskjaer, Zidane's, etc. Arteta might just have enough experience as well as cachet to pull Arsenal up by its bootstraps and at least get the fans excited about the football they're playing. It's one thing to play less pretty and get results. Another to play less pretty and not get results. Before we get to headline number 3, I'd like to remind you all to please like, comment, share, subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. If not, I hear Joey Barton's always looking for new friends. Maybe you should reach out. Go hang out. Subscribe to his channel. You guys deserve each other. Back to the show. Headline number 3. Moving on. Edinson Cavani agrees to join Atletico Madrid from Paris Saint-Germain and will complete free transfer next summer. So, apparently this is a thing. Edinson Cavani is out of contract with PSG at the end of the season with no plans to renew. You imagine by now PSG would have renewed if they planned on it. Cavani is the sort of star that's always in the mix, always sort of being talked about, at least on the periphery, considered a world-class striker, but for some reason never got the big-time transfer move or the media attention he probably deserves. Now, you might be thinking, Asaf, he's literally at PSG right now. That's a big-time transfer, sir. Right. No disrespect to PSG. I think they're doing everything they can to become a globally recognized brand and to a fair amount of success, but it will always be limited by the subscription to the league they play in. They could literally win the Champions League and it still wouldn't change that observable fact. Anyway, in Cavani's case, the stats really don't lie. He's a freaking beast. 78 goals and 104 appearances for Napoli, 136 and 194 for PSG, 50 goals for Uruguay and 116 appearances. The kid gets buckets. For you non-Americans out there, that's a basketball reference, and I don't care if it makes no sense in this context. He gets buckets. The dude can score a million different ways. He'll poach a goal as good as any, headers, left-footed shots, right-footed, long distance. He's a good penalty taker. Throughout his career, he's just scored and scored and scored some more. He can even play on the wing. He's got the pace and the skills for it. So why is nobody considering Cavani save for Atletico Madrid? Well, I'm not really sure that's true, but based on the article, why would he even go to Atletico? They'd already got Morata and Diego Costa, not to mention Joao Felix, who can play up front as well. The only thing I can think of is his recent injury record. He's already missed 15 games for PSG this season, and he does have a history of hip injuries. Other than that, if I was any club with striker problems, I'd be looking at Cavani. Teams like Man United, looking to inject some leadership and take the pressure off their young strike force, could certainly benefit from a guy like Cavani. It wouldn't cost them what they might pay for Robert Lewandowski or Mario Mandzukic. I could easily see Mourinho wanting to give Harry Kane some support. He's basically the only striker on the books, and that's a lot of pressure on his shoulders. As it is, he's playing as a part-time midfielder as well. Son is better running off the shoulder, running in behind. I don't really think of him so much as a natural number 9. I'd certainly take Cavani at Chelsea. Tammy is great, and Batshuayi is really coming good, but I imagine Giroud is on his way out. I thought he was on his way out last summer, and I definitely think Cavani would be a huge asset. Transfer food for thought. It's that time again, people. RBTH goal of the week. We are going to be giving each of 3 nominated goals a score based on the sum total of 3 categories to be determined by yours truly, Asaf Nisim. I reserve the right to be wrong, hyperbolic, and subjective for this entire segment. Go ahead. Tell me where I'm wrong. I dare you. 100 points for the build-up, including any individual skill. 100 points for the defending. 100 points for the strike itself. First up, we have a sexy goal by the Brazilian worth a billion, Willian. Rhyming aside, let's start with the build-up. We're on a corner, and clearly they've planned this one out. Kovacic comes running for the short corner from Willian. Willian gets it back when Kovacic is pressed by Lucas, and we're one-on-one with Serge Aurier. Willian doing Willian things. Quick left-footed outside step over, and Senor Aurier is left choking on Willian's dust. He has next to zero chance of getting to this shot. We've seen Willian do this on the wing repeatedly. Defenders rarely get to the cross in time for the block. He's too quick over the first 5 to 10 yards, too tricky to be predictable when he's at his best. Due to the solid set-piece setup and some great individual skill by Willian to find the space for a shot, build-up gets an 83. After the match, Mourinho criticized the defenders in the defense of the short corner. And he's right to an extent. You can see as the players are setting up for the corner, Aurier is doling out instructions to other players, and just as the corner is taken, he's looking back to the keeper to confirm that the keeper is happy with their positioning. You can also see Lucas being caught out. He uses his pace to catch up and close down Kovacic pretty decently well. When the ball gets back to Willian, Aurier is already marking him. I imagine if Chelsea had more obviously set up for the short corner, Aurier would have been out 10 yards in front of the kick, right? But it was something of a fake out, so maybe he can't get as tight to Willian as he would otherwise, but I don't know. he does end up marking him and gets beaten by Magic anyway. I think this goal was more brilliant than Mourinho's leading on. I mean, it was individual, maybe a little bit more than it was a team effort, but the defending is still poor. 45. The strike itself was top drawer. Willian cuts in on his right foot and connects really sweetly with the ball, driving it across goal and dipping it into Gazaniga's bottom left corner. No chance whatsoever. 82. That brings Willian's goal to a total score of 210. Next up, we've got a sick volley by Miguel Almiron. The build-up is nicely worked. Of course, no offsides on a throw-in. Nice cross into the back post where Andy Carroll does what Andy Carroll does best, which is getting ahead to anything. Almiron is unmarked in the box, and it's game over. Build-up gets an 80. As for the defending, you have to say Palace were asleep for the entire sequence. From the very beginning, you can even see Zaha yelling at Patrick Van Aanholt to close down Manquillo. What the hell is he waiting for there? Zaha is marking Longstaff. He needs to step forward. Ball goes in and Kelly is alert. He goes up for it, but no way is he beating Andy Carroll. Header down. And what the hell are Palace doing here? There are at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 defenders in the box, 4 attackers, and not a single player is marking Almiron steps away from the 6-yard box. You have got to be kidding me. Awful. 38. The strike here is the best part for obvious reasons. Volleys are always sexy, and Almiron still has a lot to do here. When the ball comes down from Carroll, it's a little behind him, so he has to lean back and stretch to get to it. He's so off balance that he immediately collapses after the strike that was met so sweetly with his favored left foot. Keeper ain't getting to it in a million years. 85. Total score for Almiron's goal is 203 out of 300. Last but certainly not least, the Jack Grealish goal. Ball comes in from the corner, there's a scramble to get ahead to it, and it falls nicely for Grealish. He trusts it down, sets himself up to strike in what feels almost like slow motion, and blasts. Not much purposeful build-up there, though. 50. The defending here is absolutely abysmal. It feels zonal and scattered. What the hell are Shane Long, Bednarek, and Højbjerg doing here? They aren't marking anyone. They're just getting in each other's way, if anything. Finally, the cross is met, and it falls back to Grealish, who has all the time in the world. Southampton are so slow to react and close him down. You can't allow that shot in, even if it's a tough shot. These are situations that often end in a scramble in front of goal. You want to deal with that ball as soon as possible. They didn't. They paid the price. 32. Again, the strike here is the best part. It bounces up for a sweet whipped volley that's always bending and falling away from Tom Heaton. 84. Grealish's goal gets a total score of 166, making Willian's goal this week's RBTH Goal of the Week. Makes me so proud. Well, folks, that does it for this week's episode of Reading Between the Headlines. I know you're destroyed, but thank you so very much for hanging out with me. Stick around to watch a few more of my favorite goals from the Prem this week. Another reminder to please like, comment, share, subscribe to this channel, and as per usual, for myself and from little tiny broken Picard, just look at him. He's so tiny, so broken. We hope that you live football and prosper.